The focus of today's session of the Executive Roundtable is to talk about how to do proactive expansion selling strategies. Before we start, I'd like to remind everyone, subscribe to our YouTube channel for all the great videos that we produce on customer success. Welcome to our 10th session of the Executive Roundtable for customer success leaders and professionals. I really want to thank our guests today, 𝘠𝘕𝘕𝘕 and Chris Swider from Veriforce. My name is 𝘧𝘪𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕. I'm the Chief Customer Officer and CEO at CSM Practice, the customer success consulting firm. We're one of the very first consulting firm in the world to just focus on customer success strategies. And we help companies just like yours to augment and optimize your strategy so that you can increase customer retention and expansion selling. And the focus of today's session of the Executive Roundtable is to talk about how to do proactive expansion selling strategies. And I'm currently working with Veriforce, who's a leader provider of software and services to enhance workforce and community safety, to effectively manage contractor workforce. We specifically focused on their oil and gas industry in this project. And it is my pleasure to have our guest speakers, Chris Swider, who's the Director of Customer Success, and 𝘠𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝑀Madger of Customer Success Operations at Veriforce. Welcome, Andre and Chris.
Thank you.
We get started, Andre and Chris. Chris, I think you have a few slides for us.
So we're going to go, obviously, I'm going to give you guys a quick overview of Veriforce in general, like you just mentioned, and then we're going to let Andre do a little bit deeper dive into the actual upsell expansion campaigns that we've recently done, two very different type campaigns, but I'm going to let Andre get into those later. Essentially, Veriforce is a compliance company. The last few years, we've made a tremendous amount of change in our company. All the people, we've got 3 of our portfolio managers on here, which are essentially to you folks, senior customer success managers. Casey, Brendan, and Neil are our portfolio managers, and Andre reports to me as the senior manager for customer success operations. We have a customer success service group that support functions. And as we delve more into the customer success model, which is pretty new to Veriforce as a company, we've been going through this process with 𝘧𝘪𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕 since November, and she's worked very closely with this. We've put in hundreds and hundreds of hours with her team and background work to get where we are. And thanks to 𝘧𝘪𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕, it's her and her team have been absolutely fantastic. It's been the antithesis of dealing with a consultant. I know some of you guys have dealt with consultants. Some of you are consultants, and I've dealt with them in the past. And this has been a completely unique and wonderful experience dealing with 𝘧𝘧𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘕 and her team. So I appreciate all her help. But this is a very new concept to us. We're obviously trying to take our customer success team from reactive, which we always have been, to a more proactive group. And this journey has taken us in a very short period of time, at a long distance, of course, from November to here. We were a company called PEC Safety. Everybody on this call that's with Veriforce now was PEC Safety prior. We merged with a company called Veriforce in Houston, in the Woodlands in Texas, and they were an OQ compliance company. So we wanted to get a company to where it was a singular solution, which is what you see here. Through mergers and acquisitions have actually got to that point where we are the only company in the country that can provide a singular solution for all compliance-related products across the oil and gas industry. And then we're trying to diversify into other industries. We do have some customers, but we're still mostly in that vertical where we're in the oil and gas. We were primarily in the upstream, and now with the acquisition of Veriforce, which name we actually took, we're actually into the midstream sector of oil and gas as well. So a lot of different products. It sounds simple, and when my friends ask me, what do we do? I just say, we're a compliance company, because trying to explain it to them is nearly impossible, and I hope they don't ask me to go any further than that. But we will delve into it a little bit more for you guys, but not too much. But if you have any questions, certainly ask, and if you want to ask me offline, we'd be happy to give you more information about Veriforce. But I don't want to waste too much of your time with that. But again, No other company in the world at this point offers the breadth of products, the breadth of compliance products that Veriforce can offer. We offer 3 products. This is kind of how they're broken down, where we call them our Comply, Assure, or PEC Learn in this little diagram here, this little graphic here. But Comply is essentially our contractor management product, which just verifies for hiring clients like ExxonMobil, EOG, Williams Pipeline, some of the largest oil and gas companies in the world. It basically or essentially gives them the opportunity to verify that their contractors are doing exactly what that hiring client wants them to do. And we manage that entire process, which is a very costly process for them to handle internally. So they outsource this to companies like ourselves. The Assure part of that is the Veriforce portion of it, where we assure that the workers that are going on site in the midstream sector, the pipeline industry, essentially in the U.S., are assured that they're qualified. It's called operator qualifications to go to work, and we assure that those workers that are on site are actually qualified to be there. The PEC Learn product is a legacy PEC product. It's a suite of safety products, safety training products, standardized safety products that we've had for 25 years now. So that's the PEC Learn product. There's 3 product groups. And if we move on to the next slide, essentially what we're going to show you is there's 3 product groups that are connected between 3 customer groups. So it gets complex when we start talking about customers can buy any of our 3 products. Any of our customers can buy any of our products, they can buy 1, 2, or 3, or all of them. They can be in any of our product groups, and the reverse of that with our customer groups or with our product groups. As we go into this journey, and we talked about the fact that we've going through a tremendous amount of change when we PEC merged with Veriforce. We just, like 3 weeks ago, bought another company here in Canada, which is essentially mirrors what we do here in the US. They are the largest compliance company in Canada. And now we've gone from something like 400 hiring clients, because it goes up and down pretty much every day, usually up, to 800 hiring clients, like you see on the slide here. 9,000 accredited trainers, 50,000 contractors, a whole slew of individual workers, and 400 industry standard training courses, which falls under the PEC Learn. So as we combine the numbers with the acquisition of ComplyWorks, now it makes us a global force. We weren't international before this move. Now we're actually global, all from one side of the globe to the other. We have reach in offices and all the languages in between that we have to handle to manage this customer success growth. Probably the most important thing for what we're talking about here today is kind of how our accounts, and this is just for essentially contractor management or for hiring clients, how we broke out that one group. We have 3 groups: hiring clients, contractors, and then safety trainers. This is for our hiring client group, and we did this with all 3 product groups when we first started this customer success journey. But hiring clients we broke them up, account segmentation, like you see here on the screen. We did remove some proprietary information, and we had a lot more information on this slide. But basically what you're seeing here is the ratios, right? How many customer success management personnel we have assigned to each of these accounts. And the customer success manager in our company is what we call a client rep for clients. So where you see that there's a CSM ratio of 1:4, that's just a client rep. And then we have somebody like Brendan or Casey on the phone here with us, or Neil, layered in as a portfolio manager. So very high touch at the premier and key levels. And then strategically, if we see the opportunity to layer in a portfolio manager based on an expansion opportunity, of course, then we'll layer in a portfolio manager as well. So that's kind of how we broke them up. Obviously, the higher touch they are, the more white glove service they're going to get. Where we really saw we needed to grow was a tech touch, because we have literally thousands and thousands of contractors, not in this segmentation, but on the contractor segmentation specifically. We have 25,000 contractors that we have to communicate with somehow. We can't possibly do that on the phone. So we try to do that, put them in a partner section and communicate with them on a tech touch or a digital touch.
So Chris, just to recap everything that was said, the company has multiple products, mainly 3 main products or services, including the training, compliance, and then the contractors management. And then the way that you address it, you have main two key types of CSMs. One is a portfolio manager and one is a customer success manager. But you also supplement that, and within your organization, you also have a support and specialty team members that do the implementation or the initial onboarding. You also have the SDRs helping out with the expansions, and you collaborate with sales on expansion selling. Would that be a correct statement?
Yeah, once we identify an opportunity, we actually get in sales involved in SDR, which is the sales development representative, is the first point of contact that a customer success representative will coordinate that opportunity with, and we identify it as a CSQL, and we take it from there. But that's almost exactly how we would handle that, correct?
And you would say that mostly right now your CSM team is mostly high touch?
Very, yeah. I mean, as you mentioned, the support group has been the one that's been incredibly reactive up until now, and we're in that transition as we bring in the customer success model to make that team, probably 20 people, more proactive, and we're identifying certain people who have that acumen, who have that ability to do that, and we're moving them into what we call engagement at this point. They're actually acting more as customer success representative with contractors, where we've already been doing that with clients, hiring clients for a few years now. So, answer Reagan's question, we do track by tier, Reagan, the profitability of each tier. You know, annual recurring revenue is how we really track each of our customers, because we are a subscription-based product. So we expect them to renew every year. Once we sign them on, we want to keep them on. We want to reduce churn. Our primary goal is actually retention in customer success, especially here at Veriforce. But what we're talking about today is obviously expansion and upsell campaigns. But customer success is primary goal, first and foremost, is about retention. So that annual recurring revenue number is what we track. And this is the most important KPI we really track, and churn, of course. So I hope that answers your question.
My question is on your segmentation, because it looks like it's based on tiers of revenue. Have you considered looking at other more kind of outside in customer focused items, like specific use cases, or how they're using your system, or who the buyer is, or other, you know, kind of customer oriented components? Because this is a very inside out view of segmentation, which is common.
So actually the segmentation is not based on necessarily revenue. We had a whole list of segment criteria that we just did not expose here.
I'm gonna get Mary. I'm gonna get back to your questions. I see yours was actually ahead of Irene's, but yeah, there's dozens of factors, Irene, that go into segment these customers. Usage is definitely one of them, because it's a software platform, right? This is we are a software as a service company, and the more they use our platform, the better off we're gonna be. The more hooks we have into them, the better chance we're gonna have to reduce churn and retain those customers. So that is vital. The better relationships we have with them, the better we can use them to help us expand our products. We have some really great customers, who we call mid-level customers. They're not really as large. They don't spend as much money with us, but they help us actually expand our accounts into other accounts because of the relationships and the usage that they have, kind of like product experts for us that we can share with other customers. So there's a lot more that went on as opposed to just the annual recurring revenue. But obviously when you first start this process, that's one of the things you have to look at, clearly. But yeah, like you just said, it is a little bit more inside out than outside in at this point, or outside in, reverse of that. But yeah, we had a lot of factors that were involved in this, of course.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Mary, the portfolio managers, I would say, are a little bit more inclined to focus on expansion opportunities, because client reps tend to be more operational. And Casey actually was one of our client reps who has moved to our portfolio team. And probably more than anything is because she has a more of a mind to look for expansion opportunities, right? So the people who identify those opportunities, and client reps can, but portfolio managers, which we're thinking about changing the name of those guys, maybe to customer success executives, because portfolio sounds too financial and we get a lot of pushback on that. But I think that they're definitely looking more for expansion opportunities than they are just simply retaining customers at all points. And then when we actually get an opportunity, we partner with the sales team so they can actually handle the commercial aspect of a sale. So our customer success reps, like portfolio managers and client reps, never get into the situation to where the client, who they have a very good relationship with, feels like they're selling them stuff. So we never want to feel like anybody in customer success is actively selling. It's just actually trying to provide value and match up what we do as a company with what the customer needs.
Gotcha. So when you say client rep, you mean CSM, and when you say portfolio manager, you mean potentially customer success exec, future term.
So this is Brendan. Yeah, just to kind of, great question. And I think you kind of nailed it. In the portfolio manager role, we're there kind of quarterbacking the overall strategy of the account. We're there to help the client reps and kind of eliminate obstacles both for the customer and internally. When it comes to the expansion, that's one of our, retention number one goal. But as we can recognize those opportunities, or if we can kind of help determine where there might be a need for additional products or services, that's where at that point we'll work to qualify that, and then we'll work with our sales team. And what we've also done, though, which is critical, early on in the process, we let the customer know kind of what our process is. So it's not a surprise to them when we introduce a salesperson. We talk about how we're here, we're providing that support, we're providing that overall value alignment. And then if there is a commercial opportunity, we let them know that we have specific salespeople who will help drive that process. And that seems to be working really, really well. That's a new change for us, by the way. We didn't used to do that. We kind of had a demarcation where the client reps or the CSMs handle all the accounts, and the sales team was focusing purely on organic growth. But based on the way the industry's moved and everything else, we saw an opportunity to kind of have more of a hybrid model, and that's where we've moved to about 4 months ago in that respect.
And are salespeople that you're working with comped the same way on expansion deals as they are new business?
Chris, I don't know all the background on that, Mary. I think Chris may be able to speak to that more, but I do believe that their compensation for sales is the same regardless of if it's an internal customer or a new customer. But I don't know all the details, Mary.
Yeah, I'm not certain of that either. Obviously, they're only comped on expansion, whereas my team is comped on expansion and retention, with retention being the higher, the bigger portion of that. Correct, right? A little bit more there. Irene's question is, real quick, we partner with business development, which is our sales team. Irene, they went back and identified their list of customers and applied or assigned a business development rep to each of the accounts that they thought, and we had a little bit of input with this, trying to help them identify the opportunity for growth in each of these accounts, whereas Brendan and his team actually are more based on retention and focused on retention, of course, and reducing churn. The business development rep was looking at the opportunity side of that, where we can expand. And they got together and discussed all these accounts at one point, and just, so they're focused on the ones that we can grow and find customers who are at the lower end of the ARR list, right? Who's spending the least money with us, but might have the biggest potential with us. Whereas Brendan and his team are focused on the one who already spend the most money with us. If there's an opportunity there, great. If there's expansion opportunity, great. They will look into that and nurture it, but they are making sure that we maintain these customers, retention being their focus.
Okay, great, guys. Let's move forward. And thanks, Brendan, for jumping in. By the way, Brendan is the manager of the portfolio manager team. He's heading that. So thanks for jumping in on that.
This was kind of the last slide I was supposed to handle, but essentially this one just kind of shows you the complexity of our company and all the people that are involved in building out CSQLs. A lot of communication needs to happen to make sure that we follow through on all these opportunities, which are multiple every day. It's thousands a year.
Can you tell me a little bit about the process of developing this Racy chart?
In developing a Racy chart, or just the process itself, customer success discovers CSQLs. QLs are developed or discovered by anybody in the customer success team. That's from support people, help desk folks, all the way up to Brendan and his team, all the way through the client reps. And all of these, everybody you see on this Racy chart, from services on the blue line, all the way to the right, report to my boss, who is the chief customer officer. And so everybody on our team and the customer success and operations team is subject matter experts in the gray bars to the right. Those are the ones who can identify customer success, qualified lead, create it in Salesforce, and then start that process. Goes back to an SDR, and then the SDRs will assign them either to a business development rep or an inside sales rep. And then they will in turn work with the CSM, which is either the client rep, a portfolio manager if he's assigned to that account. It still might even be somebody in engagement in our support team, depending on who is the expert on that account and who's managing that CSQL and that relationship. So
yeah, one of the main reasons we worked with the sales team on developing that is because, as you know, there could be a lot of fraction when you're doing expansion selling or nurturing expansion opportunities to hand it off to sales. And I think because the company just went through a merger, there were a lot of ambiguity around who's going to be on first. There were some, not tension, but, concerns potentially. So by working on this, what we call Racy chart, we were able to resolve a lot of the questions and negotiate who's going to be deciding at one point, when does a customer success lead goes to sales and when does it stay in customer success. So this was essentially the baseline for a lot of great discussions with sales and creating a much stronger partnership with that team.
Yeah, I'm sure there's other people on here that have been through mergers and acquisitions. So as Reed said, there can be some overlap, which sometimes causes friction. This has created some very clear swim lanes for each team. So kept it all very organized and clean.
And then this is what was the foundation of the CSQL process that we are in the process of implementing as well. So first identifying who all needs to be involved in the actions that need to be taken, and then actually develop that into process documentation for to actually roll out to your teams.
Awesome. So maybe with that, we can double click on what type of two expansion selling strategies or types of campaigns, Andre, do you typically establish for the customer success team, and what is the main difference between the two?
Yeah, so two campaigns I want to touch on today. One is a high touch campaign, one's a low touch campaign for expansion. One is what we call a Blitz campaign. And this is a highly concentrated effort by our CSMs or any of your customer success team members to increase the adoption or usage of a product or feature or purchase one of your products. We also go through this upsell campaign, which is a low touch discount driven expansion campaign. This low touch effort was kind of a little bit more reactive than proactive, which we typically do with our customer success campaigns, but as a reaction to some lower than normal sales or product sales that were behind budget. And so we needed something we could quickly put into motion to course correct those budget numbers. And after having launched customer success and all of the value messaging and some of the tactics that we have been implementing, this was really easy. This would quickly and easily come together and be executed.
Hey, Andre, what other types of campaigns do you drive via email? Because I believe that the secondary one, the one on the bottom of the screen, that's your low touch strategy for proactive expansion selling. Is there anything else that you do? You use this methodology to promote anything for the lower touch clients, or is it for all of your entire customer segment for just small or simple initiatives?
Yeah, so we're actually in the process, and we're working with CSMP to develop, what does it look like for the customer touch points, the customer tier. So, and what that's going to mean is, our super high tier customers that you saw previously in some slides are going to, have specific interactions for our different team members within Veriforce. When we get down to our lower tier and some of our kind of, infrequent users of our platform, we'll likely roll out a tech touch approach where that this person is being communicated to by Veriforce, but it's a little bit more proactive in terms of we're going to reach out to you to remind you that we're here for you, and via email, give them the opportunity to schedule some time with us to then discuss their account or discuss any questions that they have. Versus the high touch approach where it's required by our different team members to call and have, frequent check-ins with clients on a weekly, monthly, biweekly basis. So that's one effort that we're working on right now. We've done a lot of, email or outreach campaigns where just the whole philosophy is, try to create the funnel. So go out there, get as many people interested, and then continue them down the messaging, funnel, and then try to get them to eventually convert to buy. So, I think the implementation of all of the value messaging of our products and services, bringing the company together with one set of value messages around our products, implementing those across these different campaigns has really strengthened our relationship with our customers and their understanding of value of our product. So I think that's been, super successful as we've rolled out customer success.
Okay, maybe we can go into the example itself. I think there's some confusion around whether Blitz campaigns can be used solely for adoption, or is it also expansion selling?
Yeah, so we actually used this one, I guess would be more for adoption than it was expansion selling. And I'll kind of go through this one example, which had quite a lot of complexities to it. So this one example that we had, we really wanted to increase the awareness and adoption of certain features. And some of the features that we have within our platform are revenue generating or they're non-revenue generating. Otherwise, we want our customers to continue to use more features so that they are using more of our platform and getting more value out of what they're coming to us for. So what we specifically for this campaign went out to achieve is let all of our customers know about our COVID-related response products or services or features that they could use in order to help them manage the COVID pandemic. So we developed kind of a suite of resources, a step-by-step execution guide, and we did trainings for our CSMs for this campaign. We developed value-driven talk tracks by product and service, Salesforce campaign for tracking, follow-up summary and implementation guides for the client. So they knew after a call with the client, and when they did this, they spoke to our CSM, what they discussed, and then actually what they discussed and how that would be implemented. During this campaign, we launched a Slack channel for questions, and this is really great. And I'll go to that in a minute of how that's kind of kept the interaction lively during a time of COVID. And actually in execution, we designated days and hours for outreach by our CSMs. So the Blitz campaign in general, the kind of theory behind that is get everyone in a room. Usually there's lunch ordered. Everyone's kind of focused on one specific task of getting a client to adopt X or Z. And so with this campaign, that's obviously difficult at the time of COVID. So we had designated hours and days for the CSMs to perform this. And then we had a Slack channel, which we were going kind of back and forth discussing wins. With this specific campaign, we launched a pilot campaign, and then we adjusted, and then relaunched in a wave 2. And that's something that I would suggest is a really good tactic if you've never done a very complex big campaign like this, because we had a lot of learnings from the wave 1. As I mentioned, we were looking to increase the adoption of our many offerings that we had that were related to COVID preparedness. And this was delivered to our clients in the form of a questionnaire that the CSM would review live on the phone or over Zoom with the client. And it just got to be a lot of different things one thing do. I'm not sure exactly how this is, and it got to be a huge conversation that was very lengthy of these 12 different features that we were talking to them about. So in our wave 2, we actually shortened that down and really focused on one specific thing that we wanted them to talk to the client about. And this reduced the time on the phone. This reduced the kind of back and forth with questions. Well, if you have this, then I have this question about this, and so that would kind of disrupt the conversation and then stop the kind of really good value messaging that the CSM was delivering. So this was a really great learning and a really great tactic I would recommend if you're looking to implement this campaign. All of the resources that we developed, I think were necessary. The trainings that we did were really great. The process documentation that we developed was used pretty heavily. This is a brand new campaign and a brand new methodology with customer success. So, this took a lot of hand holding and a lot of follow up and a lot of just tending to ensure it actually launched.
Andre, some confusion around, the title of this session was Upsell Strategies. Did this campaign actually result in some revenue being generated, even though the focus was really to provide extra value to the client?
Yeah, we did have some. I'll give you just kind of a quick results overview here. This specific campaign, we were mostly focused on feature expansions, which then led into additional revenue opportunities. So I think we got about 5 exact revenue opportunities, but with this specific one, we were really excited that our clients were using us and expanding their feature adoption with this one. The second example I'll go to, it was really a kind of pure example of an upsell with a revenue increase that was associated with it.
Yeah, so just to clarify to anyone that's on the call, you can use the same methodology to drive adoption, which in return increases value for clients and decreases churn. But you can also push, if you have several modules that are at fee or that are fee based, or additional products that you can cross-sell into, you can use the same methodology to proactively educate clients on a specific use case or an outcomes that they can achieve, and you can achieve similar results. So in this example, they reached out to 115 high-touch customers, resulting in 30 customer success qualified leads. That result in 17 increase in adoption. However, if you're mainly promoting an additional paid module or a product or a service, you can get similar results in that capacity. So if you look at that, they got approximately, 56% out of the CQLs and 30% of those that they reached out to, at least they created awareness of this use case, and the perceived value was increased as well, which in and of itself, even if they don't adopt, increases the chances of companies renewing with you.
So my question was really about why, are these campaigns triggered by a client outreach that you're responding to? Are they triggered by some kind of time and cadence, like on a monthly or quarterly business review? Or are they triggered by, passive data monitoring and doing some predictive analytics? The funnel looks really good. A 30% response rate is actually great, and 56% is pretty killer. I'm more wondering sort of how these campaigns get triggered. Like, what causes you to wake up in the morning and do a Blitz campaign?
I think you got it from the start in your question. You kind of hit on what we use as triggers. COVID was the trigger for the first campaign that Andre's going over here. And as you mentioned, in the second campaign was exactly what you said it was. We were behind on revenue goals. So we put in place this discount campaign, and Andre's going to show you the results of that as well, but that's exactly why. So triggers are varied, and they could be anything, right? They're not typically automatic, but we're trying to build that in. We're trying to clean up our data and our usage data to be able to make these things more automatic, to where if we see usage on our platform drop down, we can do campaigns directed at that, which would kind of be more related to the first campaign, of course. But within these 17 feature expansions, there was actually revenue generated. It's just not every one of those, and we didn't put the number on here just to because it's more proprietary information. So we removed that total. But again, adoption for us leads to retention. More retention is better, reduces churn. The second one was driven directly at revenue generation, which we'll go into when Andre goes into the next campaign. But you pretty much had it in your question.
And my one response to that is, I think how we approach this is, at least my role from a CS ops perspective, I'm thinking about what are these proactive, ways that we can, launch different campaigns. And there's different things that we're implementing right now. We're working on to quickly help us identify when an upsell trigger happens, and then deploy a campaign, or to a large number of customers or a segment of our customers. But then we've also developed a lot of triggers and resources like the talk tracks that were showed here, and some of the Salesforce campaigns materials, the value messaging, to where if a rep is on the phone with a client and they hear one of those triggers, they go and follow that upsell guide, which I'm sure you discussed, with in some of these roundtables before. So kind of handling in two paths here, one where CS Ops is trying to identify cohorts of customers where we can kind of deploy these big campaigns across many audiences, and then on an individual client basis in that high touch effort from the CSM, listening for those triggers and then deploying the upsell trigger, the upsell campaign playbook based on that trigger.
In general, what the recommendation is to create a campaign once a month based on current market needs or current customer needs, or your analysis of usage or opportunities that the company is about, that wants to promote, your go-to-market strategy. So there could be different factors that goes into which Blitz campaign you're going to have, but it is a one-time effort. And as Andre shared, there was a lot of going on to just be prepared for launching it.
Yep. And just to close this out, I think normally we would have launched this, and I mentioned this before, but we'll say this again. We would have launched this all being in one room and kind of creating that hype and that effort of everyone together, calling their clients and, talking to them on the phone, tallying wins on a chalkboard, having lunch, celebrating. And that really does drive, we haven't done that yet, but from talking with 𝘧𝘪𝘳𝘠 and a lot of people who've implemented strategies like this, that really does drive the hype and the excitement about this. We transitioned that into designated hours and days, and then we had a live Slack channel that we were going back and forth with questions. And that was super beneficial for this effort because people were able to ask real-time questions, and I was able to field those and go to support and ask for support, or go to sales, or go to, leadership and ask different things that were kind of not, scripted or not provided in the talk tracks or objections that we had thought of before. So, I think while the ideal environment is everyone's together and getting this, executing this, we were able, I think, to successfully do it virtually in the COVID environment.
Awesome, Andre. And then beyond the Blitz campaigns, you also have a more of a tech touch approach to upselling. And in this example, it's just to drive discount. Yeah, so this is a response to some lagging product sales, and one of our products is training, and in-person training is obviously not happening as much anymore. So we were seeing a lag in that in the product sales of that leg of our product offering. And so what we did here was work with sales to develop a tiered discount approach by customer. So we have never done a discount on our materials, any kind of training courses. And so this was the first time we're ever looking at something like this. And so we wanted to, take the messaging of this to, some of our very top accounts who order from us frequently, who we have very close relationships with, and offer them kind of a little bit more of a discount. Our remaining customers, a different discount for them. Still a good, money-saving, one-time opportunity event. So we worked with them to develop these 10 value-focused discount emails. So, before, I've been with PC for about 3 years, and then with Veriforce, and, it really was, the value messaging was really missing from a lot of our communications. And after working with CSMP and defining those for each of our products and each of our courses, I've really pulled a lot of that messaging in, along with this kind of discount carrot, to develop this 10 email campaign. And I think it, along with some value-driven talk tracks for inbound calls, and I think this is a really successful way to incorporate our customer success practice in this, reactive campaign. So, as I mentioned, we executed this with proactive, emails, and then the emails call to action were to call our inside sales reps to actually take advantage of the discount. So it was fielding inbound calls, and then the sales included the upsell messaging in their regularly scheduled calls. So they called the customers on a regular basis and would use the value messaging that we developed for them. What were the results of this campaign?
This campaign, you can see, so we saw a pretty clear correlation with our email sends in the spikes in daily revenue. We saw an increased daily sales over 61% compared to a similar day or week pre-campaign. And it was actually a few $100,000 that was directly tied to this outreach campaign. I looked at the daily sales, along when we actually sent the emails out for this campaign, and you see the obvious spikes that caused the movement in sales, related to this. When we've typically done, other email campaigns for this audience or to our instructor audience, we'll see some spikes, but definitely not these peaks that we're seeing here, and definitely not the revenue that we were able to collect from, additional revenue from this campaign.
Very impressive. Steve Bear, you had a question about telemetry and reporting. Andre, I think you might have a slide about how you do reports on Salesforce.
Two kind of Salesforce. We use Salesforce campaigns with these efforts. So I change these member statuses depending on the campaign. So one of these right here, this is the wave 2 that we did in this first Blitz campaign. So as I mentioned, we launched a campaign, adjusted, and then re-implemented. So coming up with these very clear statuses for your CSMs to go and update after they talk to the client was really key. And there's a lot of learnings from from doing this first campaign and getting it accurate. So, and then it's mostly just use this with Salesforce dashboards and this is just the member breakdown of who all we went out to. And if you see the breakdown here, it's who responded, not interested, and whatnot. But yeah, mostly using Salesforce campaigns as tracking. And I'll say, our first campaign that we launched was like 12 initiatives, and those were individual that we had to track. And when we kind of focused this back down to one in this training product that we were calling clients about, that actually really helped with the reporting and making this a lot more clear campaign. And I think a lot more easily to be duplicated and executed again pretty quickly.
Thank you for that.
So Chris actually just reached out and said he'd rather respond to my question one-to-one because it's regarding and how it's how the mix is basically for upsell versus retention.
Yeah, in general, they are tied together. And CS in our world, Paul, CS and retention are the same thing. I'm not going to get into too much detail about compensation, but I'd be more than happy to talk to you about that offline, about how we're devising that compensation strategy a little bit.
Thank you. That'd be really helpful.
Sure. And Shahab had a question earlier. He had asked if I thought, or we thought, that sales should be incentivized for retention. Like my team, like Brendan and his team, are incentivized for expansion as well as retention. And it's percentages of how they're compensated, right? And this a little bit about, to Paul's question, I guess, we weigh what their actual job duties are, and Brendan and his team's job duties primarily are focused on retention first, expansion second, expansion and adoption second. The reverse, I think, is in place for inside or for business development, the business development team. I don't know if they are compensated for retention, but I think they should be. And that was Shahab's question. Do I think they should be, and why or why not? Obviously, the whole company, I think, should have an idea or should have an intent and focus and purpose to retain all of our customers. And all of us, everybody that works for our company, should always be looking to expand on those opportunities as well. So it's all a team effort. Customer success is obviously big on us all being a team and being proactive in what we do. So, and that we're kind of in the middle of that process. 𝑘'Eryt will tell you that, we're working with our sales team to build out that customer success culture, but we're really not there yet. So my team, I think, is definitely starting to pick it up, and the customer success and operations group is. But as far as the business development group, we still have to kind of build that culture within the entire Veriforce company, because it is a new process or a new business theory for us. So we're getting there, but we're not there yet.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for everything that was shared today. But I want to thank both Andre and Chris for a tremendous learning experience and taking the time to share their strategies and how they promote expansion selling with Blitz campaign and automated emails and the results that they have gotten so far. Thank you, everyone. We're really incredibly grateful for everybody's engagement, your advice, your perspectives, your questions. Have a beautiful day. I really look forward to seeing you next month.